What is temporary table like object? What is the conception behind this object? Why and when it's good to use? Why it's and when it's not good to use it? Answer of these questions and some other questions you will find out in this video. And like a final part, I will provide you a real world example to get better understanding. Every one of you, doesn't matter that you have background knowledge or not. And we'll have a look how we could create this object in SQL Server, PostgreSQL and MySQL relational databases. This I choose for this video because I don't want to make the video too big and too boring. For this reason, we will be focused on these relational databases. If you have some other questions or ideas, don't wait, put a comment below of this video. And that it's agenda for today. If you like this video, if you want to be part of our community, don't wait, click on the subscriber button and smash the bell button too. I will really appreciate that. Let's start with the actual part. What is temp table? What is temporary tables like objects, like a conception? In the whole places that you could use these objects, which are too many places, relational and non-relational databases and so on. These tables are tables that living in our active session. When we create a session to our database and start to write SQL scripts, we could use this object like something useful that we could use in our script, and we could drop in the end of the script, or if we forgot to drop it, our session automatically will clean the temp table or tables that we create in our script. It's living in a session, and that these are tables that particularly living in our session. That it's like a general description to say. Let's see how we could create these objects in our three of the relational databases that I chose. But before that, let's provide you one real-world example that could help you to get better understanding and before to go on the technical part and on the demo part. Let's say that we have, why not? Let's say that we are rich and we have 10 cars. Why not? And we want to visit some supermarket to buy some nice stuff and so on. And to go to the supermarket, we decide to go with one of our cars. What are approaches that we could choose? First of them is to go the whole keys for all of our cars, for our 10 cars, to put them in our pocket, to feeling discomfortable, to go to our car that particularly in this situation that we want to use, to put out of our pocket these keys, to try to figure out which of them we actually want to use, and it's the key for this particular car. And yeah, and we are ready to go to the shop. Yes, it's possible, but it's not so nice, not so productive, not so comfortable to say. What is another approach? Just to go to our place that we store our key keys, to grab only one key that we need for the Ferrari, for example, why not? And to put in a pocket only one key, to feeling good that we will have the Ferrari, why not? And to go to the shop. It's much easier. We just don't grab everything. We just don't use everything in the whole process, in the whole step to visit the supermarket. We just will grab only this part of information, only this key that we need to do our job. And yeah, with the temp tables, it's the same. They could be really useful, but if we use them in the correct way to say. Actually, let's let's now share with you the positives and negatives about the temp tables, and then we will see the actual scripts and the demo part. What are the positives? Why it's good to use temp tables? How they could help to us? They actually could help to us, especially in the performance part, with the example that I already provide you with the keys. If we get only one key, if we get only the part of the data that we actually need to work to use, for example, for our report, it's much easier after that to join, to aggregate, to do some manipulation, transformation, and changes for this part of rows that we actually need for our report. For example, we have table with 10 million of rows, but for our report we need to grab 100 rows of them of this table, and on this 100 of rows to do our manipulations and some extra calculation and so on. It's much easier to grab only this part of rows that we need. After that, why not to join another tables and so on and so on, but we will join with 100 rows, which is much faster than to join 5 tables with this 10 million of rows table, and after that to filter it the final result that we need to provide in our report. It's much slower, like a conception. For this reason, could be nice to grab only part of the data that we need to put in the temp table, and after that in this temp table to do our changes, our joins, and so on and so on. For that reason, temp tables could be really useful and could help to us to improve our performance. Temp tables, as I already mentioned, living in a session, and for them we use our RAM memory. For that reason, it's really important to put our attention about how big is our RAM memory, and to say that it's really important to know how many memory we have left to use in second, third, fifth temp table. This is the second part about the negatives. If we put too many data, if we block all of our RAM memory on our server, then the stuff will happen much slower, believe me. For that reason, the big negative that we could have when we talk about the temporary tables is to be careful how frequently we use them, how many of the temp tables we will use in our scripts, because we could use the temporary tables in 10 scripts that need to be run in the same time, for example, which will be disaster for our performance if we overload our RAM memory. For this reason, it's important to be careful when, for how big data we will use our temporary tables. And yeah, that's it about the core positives and negatives. We will not go into many details because yeah, we want to have just the basic knowledge about the temporary tables. If you have something extra that you want to comment, just put comment below of this video. Let's start with the actual scripts and examples per relational databases. Here, as you could see here in the left side, especially in dbeaver, I already connected to MySQL connection and PostgreSQL connection. Here in our first example and script that we will use, I will use my MySQL connection. How we could create the temp tables? There are two ways. First of them is just to create for the standard way table, as we already know. If you already know how you could work with the standard tables, if you don't know, leave me a comment and we'll make the special video for you with really useful information. But that is the way how we could create a tables at all. Doesn't matter that they are temporary or permanent tables. The only difference here is that we have the extra word temporary when we talk about the temporary tables which they live in our session. And yeah, that's it. We create temporary table which is with this name and these fields regarding what exactly we want to create. We put this in a brackets, the fields I mean. This is the syntax. And when we create a table, I just will do now for you for the demo. As you could see here, it's already created. We could insert data in this table and start to use it in exactly same way as the standard tables. But just it's important to remind you that we will use it only in a session. If we want to use it here, just to select from this table, you will see the result. If we go in new session, if we go in new MySQL session, as I open it, new session here and try to reach this table, yes, let's select the database, let's select exactly the same database to see that it's not from the database or from the connection, just because in this session we didn't create it, we created in that session the temporary table living only here and we could use only here. Like a name convention in MySQL, it's not something special. The second way how we could create the temporary tables is with this syntax: create temporary table with some name as, and after that we could put select statement. Doesn't matter what it is, could be just one select column names or star from some table, or could be little more complicated SQL statement with some joins and so on. It's regarding what exactly we want to put in our temporary table, and after that to develop and to transform in the next steps. But that is the second syntax. I just will drop the existing one because here it's with exactly same name, to show you how when we use this second syntax, directly we will create a temporary table with the data in it, as you could see here. In PostgreSQL, it's pretty much the same situation here, because it's another session to another connection in at O. It's about PostgreSQL connection. When we try to reach this table, will not be possible because still not exist. We want to create in this connection and this session. Let's do that on the second syntax here, because in this database the rows are smaller, with a reason to see the difference. When I select them, see only these 5 that we have here in employees table, and we create the same table as we already have, like a temporary table. But as I already mentioned, here what will be the select statement, it's depend of us. We put our select statement here regarding what exactly we want to have in our temporary table. Here in this example, you will see that it's pretty much the same. Again, two ways. First, to create a table like a structure, in the second step to insert data there, or just to use create temporary table, name of our table as, and some select statement. Here, difference between MySQL and PostgreSQL, it's that here in PostgreSQL we could write only temp or temporary, like a words, and PostgreSQL will realize that these are temporary tables. Doesn't matter which of these two words you will use. Here in MySQL, temp it's not recognized like a like a command, like a specific word, like a command that will create the temporary table. That it's only the difference. For the other stuff are pretty much the similar in both place. And in the SQL Server, I use like environment, SQL Server Management Studio, which is the original one, the free version. Here and here we have again two ways. First, it's to create a table in exactly same way as we already did in another two relational databases. But here, when we and in the second step to insert the data, but here when we want to create it from select statement, the syntax is pretty much different. When we want to do that from the select statement, doesn't matter what we will write in our select statement, or we will have the joins, aggregations, and so on. Doesn't matter how we will write our SQL statement. Between select and in the end of our columns, we need to write into and the name of our temporary tables that we want to create. That it's the big difference, like a syntax between SQL Server and MySQL and PostgreSQL, that are pretty much similar in this second scenario. Here we need to put into after all of the columns that we want to store in our temporary table. In our case, it's just a star, but if was name, for example, name and salary, only these two columns for some reason, then just we put the columns that we want to have like a result of our SQL statement, SQL query, and after that, before from command to write into and the name of our temporary table. Here, like a name convention, doesn't matter that we will create from the select statement or from original way how we create our temporary table. Here we have to put hashtag in the beginning of the name. This is a really big difference between SQL Server and many other relational databases when we talk about the temporary tables. And here, when we put the hashtag, it's not necessarily to write here temp or temporary. This is our flag that SQL Server will recognize and will figure out that this table will be temporary table. Will not be the permanent table, will be temporary table. For this reason, the syntax here it's different. We write create table and in the name have to put here the hashtag, which mean for SQL Server again that this is the temporary table. And and this table will live in our session only. I didn't run it for this reason we cannot see, but let's run this part from the select statement to show that when we use star, we will return only these two columns that we already mentioned in our select statement, not all of them from the employees table that I use for my demo. If we try to run the same in another session, we'll see that this object, it's invalid. It's not existing in another session. Only in SQL Server, from these three relational databases, there is a way to work with temp tables in more than one session. The way is to use two hashtags. This is local temporary table that living only in existing session. This with two hashtags, it's global temporary table that will live from in our sessions in across all the sessions that we open. Specific here it's when we work with the local temporary table. This temporary table will be dropped and will be deleted, dropped from our SQL Server database when we close the session. For the global, will be dropped when all of the sessions that use it are closed. I mean, in our case here with hashtag test underscore YT will be dropped when I close these two sessions. That's it. That's it, like first steps in temporary tables and how we could use them, and some really small examples, really basic examples in SQL Server, Postgre and MySQL. If you have any questions, just put a comment. If you like this video, don't wait, click on the like button too. Thank you for the watching and we'll see you in the next video.